crowd.
And the other 200 listening.
Right.
We don't know their names, but
there's a lot of them out there.
That's right. Okay, the bottom of 92, B. So let's do the question again. Bomine Levi. Levi had a question. Mitaz mi begin lebegin mahu. Blood that goes from one garment to the other garment goes from Ruvain's right onto Shimon's garment. So now, do you view that blood on the first garment as invalid? If it's invalid, then when it hits the second garment does not need laundering. Or do you view, no, at the end of the day, it's still blood that was valid for throwing onto the altar for sprinkling. And therefore, even on the second garment, since it's valid, it'll need laundering. That's the question. So, one to hit the first garment, it's no longer fit. It's got pushed away from laundering, meaning it's not fit, not blood that's fit anymore. Or maybe not. Either way you go, I'm going to require you to launder your second garment. If it's like blood that's collected, that's collected and is kosher. So if blood on the first garment is just like blood that's collected in the vessel and it's still valid, then for sure the second garment needs laundering because kosher, it's valid blood. The also apostle, and if you want to tell me that the blood is collected and it's invalid, it's more like blood that goes straight to the ground without being sanctified in a vessel. Also related to, is this garment like a vessel or not? That kind of question. If you'll tell me it's just like it got collected and it's invalid, that garment invalidates the blood, I'll still tell you that if it goes to the second garment, it'll still need a laundering. Why? Because Rabbi Akiva, I hold like Rabbi Akiva. What does Rabbi Akiva hold? Not like our Mishnah. The Amar Haisalo Shasta Kosher, the Nisala Dama Ton Kiva. Rabbi Akiva says if at one point the blood was fit, even if it got invalidated afterwards, if it lands on your garment, it still needs laundering. If you hold the blood on the first garment is fine, but for sure second garment needs laundering. And even if you hold that it's not fine, but at one point it was fine, according to Rabbi Akiva, you need laundering. So in his world, you need laundering either way. That's right. We're going to do a podcast with Don and Mr. Rosenberg how to wash Kleinum's clothing. Watching a few million viewers, I would think. So, okay. Water versus urine, that's the machlokas. Yeah, if you're following the chat. Okay. Bo minei Rabbi Bar Chava. I think the chat finally got interesting, It's always me coming late. Now it's like actually exciting, So, Bo minei Rabbi Bar Chava me Rav Chisda. Rabbi Bar Chava asked Rav Chisda, Nitas ala beged tamei. What if the blood lands on a... What happened? The company just got logged off somehow. Okay. If the blood landed on a invalid, on a impure garment, so how do you view it? Do you view it mahu amar of Huna Breder Vishua? Meaning, how do you view it? The garment's impure. So do you view it that the second it hits it, it has like a moment where it was pure, and then afterwards it became impure? Or do you say no, that simultaneously it happens, all happens simultaneously, and therefore the blood at the moment that it landed is the same moment that it became impure, and therefore it's considered like not valid blood hitting the garment. So how do you view that? So if it became invalid, if the blood was invalid, so then it's going to not require laundering. Or maybe, since at the moment, let me say it differently. Do you view it that it's like the moment before it hit the garment, it was valid, and right when it hit it, there's like a split second where it was valid, and when it hits the garment, it's like it's invalid, and therefore the garment is fine? Or do you say no, since at the moment that it hit the garment, the blood also became invalid, so it's like invalid blood hitting the garment, and therefore what would happen? It would not require laundering. So that was the question. Do you say this simultaneous idea or not? So, yeah. Okay, let's see. So Amar Rav Huna Breder Yeshua says Rav Huna Breder Yeshua made the Baile Hachi Shmamina Haisala Shasa Kosher V'Nifsala Ein Damaton Kibus So says Rav Huna, from the fact that you, Rabbi Bar Chama, asked this question, so I can see from here that if it would have had a point in time where it would have been valid, and then it became impure, you wouldn't require laundering. But that's only harimili bezeh charzeh. Aval b'bazach aslo. But the fact that you only ask this question when the blood hits the garment, and then you want to know, is that like impure blood or pure blood? It shows me that if it happened at two different stages, if it was good blood, and then it became bad, so then you would say that's fine. You would say that does not require any laundering. And the fact that you only ask in this exact specific case, so let's say if blood became tamei beforehand, so that for sure you don't need any laundering. Even though if it was fit and then it became unfit anymore, that's for sure not going to require laundering because it's not fit right now. But that's only true when it happens in two separate time frames. That's on the one hand. Or dil maloshna, or maybe no, or maybe even that case, it would still require laundering. So okay. Yeah, so that was the question that was posted. So now Amar Lay, so he answers back, Plukta de Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan, Aliba de Rabba, Ukida Kamataretz Abaye. So it's going to be a long road, but the answer is going to be a debate, Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan, according to the way Rabba explained it, like the answer of Abaye. So we need to figure out the debate, get Rabba's opinion down, some question that Abaye answers, and then we can plug it back in. Okay, here we go. Tanya says the Brisa. Rabbi Lazar Omer. Rabbi Lazar said. Now we're jumping to the meichatas, the special purification blood that was sprinkled upon the person who came in contact. Purification waters. Thank you, not blood. Thank you. Purification waters. Yeah, that what happened to them? Meichatas shenitmu mitarin. Even if they became impure, they could still purify, as if they were never impure. Shaharei, what's my proof? Nida, Mazanala, a lady who's a Nida, who came in contact with a dead body. We still sprinkle the purification waters on her. Now, when it hits her, the water becomes impure, but it still purifies her. So you see, water that's impure can purify. The Amar Rabba, Rabbi Lazar, Beshitas Rabbi Akiva Rabbo Amra. Rabbi Lazar, who said this, who allows this purification to happen, he goes in the opinion of his Rabbi Akiva, who says the Amar Havaras Kli Al Gabe Makom Tame Kimunach Tame. Rabbi Akiva says when you're carrying a vessel over an area that's impure, you can over the airspace, you can view the vessel as if it's already landed. It's above the airspace. So how do you view that? Is it basically already impure? You're just laughing, putting it down? Or no, until it's actually on the impure object, it's not going to be impure. So Rabbi Akiva says that even if it's passed over an impure place, it's like it's put down. Where do I see that? So you're standing, and outside your house is an oven right attached to your wall. Inside the oven, which has an open top, it's like our imagine you have a fire, and then above there are two holes, like a stovetop kind of thing, where you're going to put or oven really has one top on top, has one hole on top. So it has a hole on top where the fire goes through. Inside that tanner is a sheretz. Is one of the insects, one of the bugs that one of the creepy crawlies that impurifies the sheretz betanner. And what did you do? You put your hand outside the window, and the notel es halogin, and you took a vessel of water, the heviru al piatanner, and you carried it over the airspace of the oven, which has the impure sheretz inside. Rabbi Akiva metami v'chachamim metami. Rabbi Akiva says it's impure, and the chachamim say it's still pure. Now we're saying ubahal pligi to Rabbi ubahal pligi, and this is what they argue about. According to this opinion, this is what they argue about. Rabbi Akiva savar kimunach dami. Rabbi Akiva holds it as if it's already placed down. It's just lacking a technical placing, but it's already It's in the airspace, already considered like it's going to be placed down, therefore it's impure. The Rabbanan Savri lav kimunatan, and the rabbis hold that it's not considered placed down, and therefore it's not going to be impure. Okay, so now how this all get started? Rabbi Lazar said that the purification waters that landed on a nida that now are impure still purify her. He goes like his Rabbi Akiva, who says passing a vessel over the airspace of something impure will impurify. That's what we're holding so far. Now, the Eisa Abai, here comes Abai's question, and we're waiting for Abai's answer to plug it back in. The Eisa Abai, Moda Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva agrees though, Behazah shehevira al gabe kli cheres. Rabbi Akiva agrees Behazah shehevira al gabe kli cheres. So Rabbi Akiva agrees that if you have the purification waters and you pass it over a kli cheres, an earthenware vessel, which is impure, or so then it'll be impure. But al gabe mishka b'moshav tameh sheitahora. If you pass it over something which I don't know, the couch, you see, good, thank you. That's impure. Then the purification waters will be still pure. So passing it over the earthenware vessel will be impure. Passing it over the couch or a seat will be pure. Okay.
The couch or the seat does not have a purity.
It's somehow impure. I don't know how it got impure. I don't know. You put the corpse there before the tahara and then you took it off. I don't know.
Well, maybe the need is set there.
That's also true. So yeah, so that's the hora. Why? She'ein lecha davar shemetame limala kilemata ela kizayis min hameis v'shar kol ha'ahilim. So he explains because there's nothing which will impurify above like below, except for a kizayis min hameis. I guess that's our case on the couch. They're like an olive's worth. That's the minimum amount of impurity from a corpse. V'shar kol ha'ahilim, or anything else which causes impurity in what we call tumas ohel, which is tumah that spreads when you're in a closed room, a roofed tumah. Yeah. Okay. So now, lasuye, what is coming to include this other kind of the corpse, the kizayis of a corpse of a dead person, and the other roofed tumas, lasuye even hamenugas, to include a rock that was touched by someone who had seras. Fine. So that's why the kli cheres is not the earthenware vessel. How are they going to answer? So what's the difference in the earthenware vessel and the couch? Plug it back in for a second.
Well, the sages and Rabbi Akiva agree that the purification water passing overhead is not as if it is at rest.
Oh, that's coming up next.
Okay, that's this part.
I'm asking, according to Rabbi Akiva, Abai asked the question. According to Rabbi Akiva, you see that passing over the couch is not going to cause impurity. But he said that over the vessel, the earthenware vessel does cause impurity. So what's that difference? Our focus in the Gemara is the question that when it passed over the couch, it's pure. And yet when it passed over the oven before, we said it's impure. That's a biased question. How do you resolve those two? I'm just asking internally, it says when you pass over the earthenware vessel, you're going to be impure. Oh, no, maybe not. I'm sorry. No, sorry. You're going to be pure. Sorry. Yeah, no. In both cases, both the earthenware vessel, I think, and the couch, you're both going to be pure. Because that's not talking about, I guess, where there's actually a kazayas, olive's worth of a dead person, and it's not tumas ohel. So you're going to be pure. So hold on. If you're telling me that Rabbi Akiva and the rabbis disagree about things being in the airspace, is like it's placed down or not, well, if that's true, then we see Rabbi Akiva here says you pass things over, and it does not cause impurity. So what's the answer? So Ella Amar Abai says, Everyone agrees that when it's over the airspace, it's not like it's landed. Okay. If that's true, how come Rabbi Akiva says when you pass it over the oven outside your house, it's going to be impure? The oven with the sherets inside. There could be Kollel that affects impurity. Why is that going to be impure then? The Rabbi Akiva suffer. Totally different reason. Gazrin and Shami Yanuach. He makes, it's a rabbinical decree. Maybe you're going to place your item down into the oven, on top of the oven, and then it'll be impure. But the rabbis hold that we didn't make that decree. Fine. So, okay, so that's that. Now, Umo de Rabbi Akiva behazah, Rabbi Akiva agrees by back to the purification waters. Kevan did nafak. But Rabbi Akiva would agree though, in something which you have no control once it leaves your hand. Once you sprinkle the purification waters on the nida, there's no point of return. That he'll agree that once it's in the airspace, it'll also cause impurity. That will cause impurity. So, one second. Sorry, the other way. 1 second, the other way. No. The other way. When it's something which is in your control, he'll impurify because he's worried you're going to place it down. Once it's left your control, the cave the nafak. Once it left, that's it, it left. It's not in your hand to bring it back. And therefore, he'll say that it's going to be pure, not impure, but rather it'll be pure. Okay. And so that would be Rabbi Akiva. So now, okay, we're not going to plug it in yet. 1 second. Rabbi Elazar v'Rabbanan. 1 second. So we asked sprinkling onto a impure baguette, right? We asked that was a debate. Rabbi Elazar and the Rabbanan. According to Rabba, like Abai answered. Okay, so we're not there yet. So now, what do Rabbi Elazar and the Rabbanan argue? Remember, they argued about purification waters that touch a nida. Will they cause purity? Will they still purify her or not? So we just explained that Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Elazar says they will cause purity, and he goes like the opinion of Rabbi Akiva that once since it's in the airspace, but there's no point of return, it's not going to be impure. Okay. Mother Akiva, yeah. Rabbi Elazar v'Rabbanan b'maikin. What do Rabbi Elazar and the rabbis argue about? Amar Abaye, like Abaye answer. Here's our answer. Bidanin tuma keduma mituma sheba oso sha mar savar danin umar savar ein danin. What do they argue? They argue about by the purification waters. Do you say this is what they argue about? How do you view purification waters that touched Anida? Do you say that at the point that it touched, it's still pure? It will still purify her, even though a split second later it became impure? Or you say no? Do you say that the second it touched Anida, you view it like it's already impure, and then it's impure purification waters that touch the nida? So that's their debate. So the answer to our question about the blood touching the impure garment is the same thing as purification waters that touch the nida. So, yeah, 1 second. According to Belazar, our baguette, our clothing, that's impure and the blood hits it, is not going to need laundering because you view the moment where the blood falls on the garment like you view it as if it was impure beforehand. I mean, how do you view things that happen at the exact same time? That's what it sounds like. So it says no, you view it like a second before it became impure, and therefore you don't require laundering. And therefore the nida will, and therefore yeah, and the rabbis say no, that is not the same. Yeah, so that's according to Abai. How you view things that happen simultaneously is really a debate, Rabbi Elazar and the Rabbanan, when it comes to purification waters hitting a nida, and therefore, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now that's all Abaye. Rava Amar the Kuli Alma ain't done. No, you don't view things that happen in that moment like it was a second beforehand. Rather, they argue about something else. Hakabakam if we give Rabbi Lazar Savar Hazat Tricha Shir Umitzarfin. Lahazos, Rabban Savar Hazat ain't Tricha Shir. If you say that you need a minimal requirement of sprinkling, let's say the purification waters. So let's say, I don't know, you need 10 drops will get you there, let's just say. So the first drop, you're right, it touches the nida and now it's impure, but that's not enough to cause purification. You need to have let's say 10 drops or whatever it is, an ounce. So therefore, you're not going to view that as significant enough to become impure now. It has to add up. It has to add up to all of them. So just because that first drop became impure, that's not going to be relevant until you have the full amount. And therefore, once you have the full amount, you're going to say that she's pure. But the Rabbanon, they say that you don't need a minimal share, a minimal amount. And therefore, the second the first one touches her, the second the first one touches her, that's going to be impure, that first drop, and therefore it can't purify her. 1 second. Yeah, so it's interesting. According to Rabbi Eliezer, what happens is the first drop hits, but that's not enough. So you're right, it became impure from the nida, but it's not significant because it doesn't cause purity. So what happens? When the second one hits it, it joins with the second one. The second one was pure. And then the third drop comes, the first two join with the third drop, and they're pure. And the fourth drop comes, they join with the fourth drop. So they keep joining with the pure drops until they get to a certain amount, and then you say she's pure. And we call this fancy footwork, yeah? The basketball. I'll have to explain later. It's like rugby. Except for the net. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, okay. Chatas psula. A chatas that's impure, if the blood goes on your garment, then you don't have to wash it. From the blood. Only certain blood is good, not other blood. Which blood is good? Which blood is not good? Blood that's valid is good. Blood that's not valid is no good. Blood that's not valid is not good to require laundering. It will not require laundering. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Haisala Shasa Kosher Benifsala, Dama Ton Kibus. He's very strict. If at one point it was fitting and then became invalid, you need laundering. Low Haisala Shas Kosher, if it was never fit to put onto the altar, never fit for sprinkling, the nifsala, then ain't Dama Ton Kibus. And then it got invalid. And it landed on the clothing, so then it does not need laundering. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Echad Zeh Ein Damaton Kibus. They both, they both will not require laundering. At the end of the day, if it lands now and it's invalid, no laundry. So my time, Rabbi Shimon, why does Rabbi Shimon say that both these cases don't require laundering? Siv also, Siv mi dama. Both exclusionary words. Also only this and only from it. Chad, what they come in to exclude? Chad lahechad ha'isla shafik kosher. Yeah, one is coming to exclude where it had a moment that it was good, then it was not good, and one to exclude a moment that it was never good. Both those are excluded, and it's only if it's good does it require laundering. Rabbi Akiva, what does he do with this? Also, probably truma. First, something totally different. That just because a chatas meat cooked in a pot, you have to do it to purge it and wash it out, but that's only true by a chatas, not by truma. A separate halacha about washing out dishes and purging dishes that apply to a chatas will not apply to a truma. Rabbi Shimon. Why doesn't he use that pasuk for that? But Tameh, it goes according to his reasoning, which is the Amar Kachim Kalim ain't to the Marika Vishtifa Vakoshkin Truma. He anyways holds that only certain sacrifices, only the holier sacrifices require purging and washing. Remember, because if you leave it overnight, then the parts that got absorbed in the vessel might be no sar. It might be left overnight. You got to purge it out. So you don't violate no sar. We treat those things very seriously. So, but according to Rabbi Shimon, anyways, lower level sanctity, a shlamim, etc., bechor, meiser, those things do not require purging and washing out. So for sure, truma is not going to require it. That's why he doesn't need a verse to exclude truma. It's already excluded in his world. Okay. Nitas minats. Nitas minatzavar. It goes straight from the neck of the animal onto your clothing. Enoton kibos. That does not require laundering. Mina karen and mina yisod. From different parts of the altar, it sprinkles off the altar after it's been already sprinkled. It goes back on your clothing. That's also enoton kibos. Does not require laundering. El nishbach al ritzvah. Sorry, it gets spilled onto the ground. The asfu enoton kibos. If it goes straight to the ground, you scoop it up. Does not need laundering. Only thing that needs laundering is blood that is in a vessel, now sanctified, fitting to be put onto the altar. If from there it goes onto your clothing, then you got to bring it to laundromat. Make sure you have quarters. This is a good question. I was wondering that. Did you stop what you're doing? Presumably. What else is it? What else is it if not for that? If it doesn't invalidate your clothing, and you can't be a mechusar begadim, you can't be lacking clothing. So what else would be the ramification of it? You could say it's just not nice, it's not pretty, but it sounds like yeah. So look it up, and then. Right. This is like our mamzer. You have to be a Jew to be a mamzer, right? So you have to be valid blood to give you a disqualification. The older you are, the more ramifications you have. Yeah, no, but it is very interesting. You're covered in schmutz blood that's never valid, whatever it is. Keep going. Like interesting way you like misusing it.
Kind of a misuse.
Misuse. And it's only a chatos. It's not even other offerings. It's like a very fast, yeah. Look at the commentaries on the Chumash. Like, what about this is so unique? Okay. Tana Rabbanan Yachol Nitas Ben Atzavar. Maybe he'll tell us. Yachol Nitas Ben Atzavar ala beged. You would have thought that maybe straight from the neck of the animal onto your clothing, you would need laundering. Talmud Lomar Asher Yiza Lo Marti V'cha Ela B'Ray Lahazal. It's only blood that's fitting for sprinkling. The blood straight from the animal is not fit. Has to go into a vessel. Tanya, you know, another Bryce says Yachol Nitas. You would have thought. You would have thought if it bounces off the altar onto your clothing from the corner, from the base, you would also need kibus. It's only something which you will sprinkle, not which has already been sprinkled, already been placed on the altar. That is not going to fall under this requirement. Turn the page. It gets spilled on the ground. So hasulamali, what is that? What is that teaching doing for me? The next line, the Mishnah said, only if it's in a vessel. So yes, if it falls on the ground, when you scoop it up, that's not fit for causing laundering. So it says, no, it's a matam kamar. The Mishnah is saying, matam, what's the reason when it spills on the ground and you gather it up? It does not require laundering. It's just that those two lines in the Mishnah, it's not that they're repetitive, they're just explaining, one explaining the other line. If it goes straight from the animal onto the ground and then you scoop it up, it's not fitting. Now it's in a vessel. No, only blood that was in a vessel, only that blood is going to be able to cause laundering. But this first fell on the ground and then you scooped it up, that's not going to be valid. But I believe we know already that if it's in a vessel and then it goes to the ground and you could scoop it up, that's fine. But if it goes on the ground first and then a vessel, then that's not good. Yeah. Okay. Royula Hazoya. It has to be fit for sprinkling. Lemute Mai. What's that coming to exclude? So Lemuute Kibel Pachos B'Kei Hazoya, B'Klizet, Upachos B'Kei Hazoya, B'Klizet. Let's say you have two vessels. Each one does not contain the amount that you'll need for sprinkling. Titania, that would be excluded, even though it's totally fine. The problem is it's lacking the amount. If you need half a cup to sprinkle, it only has a quarter of a cup, and your other cup also has a quarter of a cup, and now that blood, it's in a vessel, and it goes onto the garment, no laundering. So the Tanya, the Brisa says, Rabbi Chalafta, Bar Shal Omer Kiddush Pachos Mikdei Hazaya B'Chlizel Pachos B'Chlizel. You have a sanctified blood in one vessel, and which is but less than the amount, and in another vessel you have also less than the amount. Low Kiddush. That's not going to cause sanctity. That blood is not considered holy. You have to have the right amount. Sorry, but that was talking about purification waters, right? Yeah. That was the purification waters. If you have less than the right amount in your purification water vessel, that's not going to sanctify the purification water when you mix it together with the ashes of a paraduma. It's not going to cause sanctity. You have to have the right amount. So now, that's an explicit statement by purification water. Now, can we or can we not transfer that over to blood? What about by blood? Do you say that which Rabbi Chalafta just told us by the purification waters is a halacha Moshe Messinai? And halacha Moshe Messinai was unique for the purification waters, and you can't learn from halacha Moshe Messinai about purification waters to blood. That's on the one hand. Or maybe you'll say Hasamai time with Ksiv, V'tavel b'mayim. Maybe over there by the purification waters it says V'tavel b'mayim. It says it's b'mayim instead of b'mayim. You should V'tavel means you should dip in the water. The water is a reference to earlier the water that's required for purification. Meaning you have to, when you dip your finger into sprinkle, it has to be the amount that is fit for purification. If it's because you're reading the word b'mayim, the water, well, hachanamik si v'tavel badam. You're gonna dip your finger into the blood. What's the blood? The blood that's mentioned that will cause purification. Meaning you have to have all the blood there. But if you're basing it off the grammar of b'mayim and badam, then we're in business. Maybe you can learn from there. So that's our question. Is it halacha Moshe Messinai and you cannot learn from it? Or really it's badam, it's really because of the word badam, and that badam, b'mayim and badam, you can learn that one from another. So let's see. Tashma the Amr of Zrika, Amr of Elazar, af badam lo kiddush. Af badam lo kiddush, even if you have not the right amount of blood, you have a too little blood, that will not cause sanctity. Okay, sounds like we do learn from the sprinkling water, you have to have the right amount. Amarava Tanya, we have a bride that tells us three halachas. Vitaval below mesafek. You have to dip and not spoke as a sponge, but it means you have to go and put your finger in and your finger gets wet from the water, not scooping the bottom like the kids do with the yogurt. They'll put their finger in the bottom and get the bottom. Or grown-ups do when the kids aren't looking, like put the finger in the bottom. Some grown-ups, okay, not all grown-ups. So okay. So vitaval, nobody I know, but vitaval below misspoke. So you have to dip it and not get it from the bottom, and you have to, I don't know what's the word they use to clean out the bottom, not from cleaning out the bottom. Spoke is a sponge. You have to get it from the sponge, so I don't know. It's a similar word to that.
Wiping the finger around the inner wall of the bottom of the blood has ears there.
In other words, they don't have one word for it. Got it. So okay. V'tav of a little bit so not by cleaning. Okay, we'll use cleaning out. Fine. Bedam, achi bedam shir tila. Oh, mikaro in the blood. It has to have the amount of blood required for the sprinkling. Mikaro originally, you can't have less blood and then combine two vessels. Not going to work. Min hadam shebe'inyan. Min hadam has to be from the blood. From the blood that we're talking about. Yeah, meaning every time you have to dip your finger again. You're gonna have, if you're sprinkling the blood in the inner altar. So at that point, the contest you sprinkle 7 times towards the parochas, towards the cover. You have to each time put your finger in and sprinkle. Let's say after the first sprinkling, you have remnants of blood on your finger. So maybe you'll think you could just use the remnants of blood. Why do it again? So save me effort. Just go like this. No, you can't do it with the leftover. It has to be a new A new dipping every time. Yeah. So
you dip so much that you go below the minimum.
you think now you're out. I don't know. It'll be like an amusement park. You have free refills. I don't know exactly. So yeah, okay. So that's that. Now, why do you have to have all three of these along? Badam. I need the first one that says badam and not by cleaning. Because of Rachmana B'Tava, if it just had by dipping, Havamina Alpha be the lake of sheer tvila meikaro. Because Rachmana Badam out of not by cleaning, but if you didn't have the word badam and you only had the word and you're gonna dip, you would have thought even if it doesn't have the requisite amount right now, that still qualifies as a valid dipping. So that it says badam. No, you have to have badam, it has to have the requisite amount from the get-go. Because Rachmana Badam Havamina Fila Misfog. If it says badam, you would have thought even cleaning it out. Like who cares how you get it? As long as you got blood on your finger, why does it matter? No, because Rachmana B'Tava min adam. B'Tava min adam. No, you have to dip. You have to dip. You can't just clean out and scoop. You got to dip it in and get from there. Min adam should be inyan. You have to get the blood from the vessel, not the leftover blood on your finger. L'me'ute mai, coming to exclude what? Amarava l'me'ute shirayim shebe'etzba. It's coming to exclude the leftovers on your finger. That is not going to be valid. Mistayel Rabbi Lazar, the Amar Rabbi Lazar shirayim shebe'etzba psulin. Oh, a support for Rabbi Lazar. He said leftover blood on your finger is not going to be valid for the sprinkling. Amar Rabbi Baravada l'Rav. Amri Tamidicha Amar Rav Amram Tanina Hayamaza v'Nitza Haza Miyado. So the Ravin, the son of Rav Ada, said to Rav Avram that the students said in the name of Rav Amram. I mean, they said in your name the following. They said Tanina. There's a brisa that was taught. Hayamaza v'Nitza Haza Miyado. So you were sprinkling. The Nitza Haza Miyado Ad Shelo Hiza Taun Kibus. But Misha Hiza Ain Taun Kibus. So a person was sprinkling the inner chatases, and now what happened was, sounds like the blood left his hand, and until he finished it, if it got on your clothing until he finished it, it would require laundering. But Misha Hiza, once he sprinkled it, it doesn't require laundering. So a cryptic price. So what is it referring to? Ma'ilav, is it not referring to the following case? Hachi Kamar, Achilo Gamar Milahazos, Ton Kibus. Until you have completed your sprinkling, you'll require laundering. But Misha Gamar Lahazos, Ain Ton Kibus. Once you finish sprinkling, it's not going to require laundering. Now, I believe here, the question is, at this point, we say finishing sprinkling, we don't mean finishing all 7 sprinklings, I believe. I think what we're asking is, it's finishing the sprinkling of that individual sprinkling, which would mean that even if you have the leftovers of the blood, you have leftovers on your finger, it goes on your clothing, that would require laundering, which would then validate the leftovers on your finger, which would be a question of what we just said, that the remainders on your finger are not fit for the sprinkling of the blood. No, I think that's how they translate. I think that's meaning you could read this brisa as long as you sprinkled until the next sprinkling, you're going to require your clothes to be laundered. Even if the leftover blood got onto your clothing, still you'll have to wash it, which would mean that the leftover blood is valid. But we just said that it's not valid. You have to dip it and then sprinkle. If it's left over on your finger, that blood is not valid. But if it's not valid, then how come if it gets on your clothing, it'll require laundering? The rule is only valid for sprinkling blood requires laundering. Besides the Gemara, lo, haki kamar, this is how you read it. Achlo yatzta hazam miyado taon kibos. Mishi yatzta hazam miyado ain't taon kibos. We're talking about all the blood, meaning when you finish, until all the blood is finished, not from the finger, from the whole hand. Meaning, when you finish all 7 sprinklings, so until you finish all 7, if it gets on your clothing, you'll still require laundering. Once you finish your 7 and then it gets on your clothing, then it's not going to require laundering. But it's not necessarily talking about the leftover of the finger that gets on your clothing. That much it's not talking about. I guess it's not there. We're on regular schedule tomorrow. Tomorrow Hanukkah. 9th day Hanukkah.
Yeah, not nice.